Today on Hearts of Heroes, peril in paradise.
I was losing hope. I just honestly couldn't believe that this was happening to me.
A young kayaker alone and adrift in the Pacific Ocean.
I had no control over the boat, and the current just took me out.
I called my husband, and he said Kahiao didn't come back.
Caught in treacherous currents, his fate rests in the hands of first responders, Good Samaritans, and the United States Coast Guard.
Looking for somebody at night is very difficult. We had no idea where he might be.
The longer they're out there, the chances of survival are very, very slim.
I don't know what to do. My hope was to survive.
Be it by air or by sea, these heroes risk their own safety to save those in need. Kayaking has become a wildly popular pastime. It's the perfect sport for those wanting to experience the open water and fresh ocean breezes. And what better place to do it than in Hawaii?
But as with any recreational activity, kayaking can be dangerous. When one young man was lost at sea, it would take multiple rescuers, including the fire department, the U.S. Coast Guard, and even an off-duty lifeguard to try to bring him to safety.
It's no secret that Hawaii boasts some of the world's most stunning tropical scenery. But did you know that it's also home to the largest Coast Guard area of responsibility on Earth?
This station is chaos in the midst of beauty. It's a 12 million square mile AOR that covers from here all the way to Guam, all the way back to the west coast of the United States.
Our motto is Semper Paratus. We respond when people need us, when people are in peril in the ocean, and we do our best to save them.
You might say that they embody the aloha spirit.
The spirit of aloha. We're all about caring for each other and just the lahui, which means the community.
17-year-old Kahiao Kawai and his family are native Hawaiians who live on the island of Oahu.
My last name, Kawai, means the water. So that even connects me to water in a sense.
That connection led the teenager to the sport of kayaking.
I love kayaking because of the uniqueness of the sport, the challenge that comes with it, and just being on the water in general is very special to me.
In October 2024, Kahiao faced an unprecedented challenge while training for a competition off the coast of Waikiki.
I ended up going out farther than I usually do. I noticed the intensity of the waves picking up. The waves got higher and higher. That's kind of what gave me a certain feeling in my stomach.
Suddenly, the ocean currents pulled Kahiao out into the open water.
I initially floated out past Diamond Head, and I really had no control at that moment. I had no control over the boat, and the current just took me.
The currents here are extremely strong. We're in an island in the middle of the ocean. It's very deep water. The currents are unforgiving and take lives every year.
If you get in a channel between the islands, it will take a boat, a person, a kayak, whoever, and will sweep it in the direction of that current.
When Kahiao failed to check in, his mom's worry set in.
I called my husband. He said Kahiao didn't come back. And I just started to feel the panic inside my body.
A 911 call went out. Kalehua rushed to the beach.
I just ran out to the edge of the park, closest to the water that I could get to, and I just fell on my knees and yelled his name.
Rescuers began mobilizing for an air and sea search, using rescue boats and highly specialized helicopters. The first agency to respond was the Honolulu Fire Department.
On searches, hours, minutes matter. So the longer they're out there, especially in the sea, and it's a big ocean, the longer they're out there, the chances of survival are very, very slim.
In addition to being a fire department pilot, Joshua Yeager is a friend of the Kawai family.
I called Kahiao's dad, and I just was giving words of encouragement and just telling him we're doing everything we can.
But out on the water, the situation was quickly spiraling for the young kayaker.
I flipped in the huge wave. I lost my paddle, which was swept away. And in that moment, I had to grab onto my boat and leave the paddle behind and hope for the best.
The paddle is necessary to stabilize a kayak. especially in rough seas.
Since I had lost my paddle, I couldn't get back in my boat without flipping over again. So I had to find a comfortable spot on my kayak where I could just cling on.
As the sun started to set, the Honolulu Fire Department knew that they needed more resources. Enter the United States Coast Guard.
We immediately launched the Air Station 65, a helicopter, as well as a C-130.
It's a very large aircraft. Typically, for really long-range cases, we could put 60,000 pounds of fuel on it. It's a lot of fuel. It can get you over 12 hours of flying on some of these longer cases.
The Coast Guard began developing a search model using a sophisticated computer system.
We take stuff like sea state, winds, currents, etc., and then based off of that, we can set up our search patterns around that to hit the places where he's most likely to be.
But as darkness fell, the teenager felt powerless.
It was the only time where I actually started to cry. I was losing hope. I saw the sun setting, and I just honestly couldn't believe that this was happening to me, and thought, like, I don't know what to do.
By now, multiple agencies, along with local volunteers, had mobilized.
We had the official responders, the Coast Guard, EMS, fire, but then also you had community members who just heard, hey, there's someone in need of help in the ocean. So you have a lot of people searching.
It was instrumental to have all of those different civilians going out there as good Samaritans on their own vessels and assisting with this search.
Out on the ocean, Kahiao relied on determination and ingenuity to hold on.
I actually took this rope that's tied to the boat, and I wrapped it around my hand to ensure that if I was floating and I had passed out or fallen asleep, I wouldn't lose my kayak.
But on shore, as the hours stretched into evening, dread began to settle in.
I just was looking out into the dark ocean and just blown away that he was out there and that I didn't know what to do. I was really scared.
Coming up, Kahiao fights to stay hopeful.
At that point, I was really scared that they would never find me out where I was.
But first, currents and rogue waves aren't the only threats in the water. Here's a tip for anyone who might find themselves caught in a flood.
Tropical storms and hurricanes can leave a trail of destruction in their wake. And just because the storm is past doesn't mean the coast is clear.
Floodwaters can carry many hazards, including debris, chemicals, even animals. These dangers settle in the standing water left behind by the storm, turning it into an unpredictable and often invisible threat. That's why it's crucial to avoid any standing water after a storm. This includes flooded roads or even your own backyard pool.
Keep your feet on solid ground. Floodwaters don't just carry water, they can also carry trouble. So keep your distance and wait for the pros to call it safe.
Adrift in the dark waters off Oahu, 17-year-old kayaker Kahiao Kawai had been lost at sea for nearly 7 hours.
I thought about what my parents were feeling at the moment. I knew they must have been devastated, and I really didn't want them to have to live in the future without me. And that's just a terrible feeling.
It was terrifying, it was confusing, it was frustrating. Was this it for him, 17? I was just scared.
But surrender wasn't an option for anyone, including rescuers. Watercraft, helicopters, and planes were tenaciously searching for the teenager.
I saw many helicopters. They were flying around, and I saw them making paths that didn't go towards me. At that point, I was really scared that they would never find me out where I was.
At that moment, he tapped into remarkable resilience.
I took a moment to calm myself down and thought of the best way to get out of the situation, because my hope was to survive. And that's kind of something that made me decide to start swimming back.
The currents had taken Kahiao east, across Waikiki Beach, past Diamond Head, and further out to sea.
When you look at Hawaii, it's a small string of islands in the middle of a big ocean. So all of those giant ocean currents, the entirety of the Pacific, is flowing through the Hawaiian Islands. So if you get in a channel between the islands, that current is strong.
But those unpredictable Hawaiian waters began to shift, and this time, they were working in his favor.
I actually started realizing that the current was going the opposite way than I had been before, and I decided to use that to my advantage, and I actually swam with the current on top of my boat. I used it as a paddleboard in a sense. I figured out quickly that I could lie down on top of it and be comfortable enough to paddle and sort of kick. I had landmarks on the shore and buildings that I would look at, and I wouldn't let myself stop paddling until I had passed it. And I would continue paddling and just find my next landmark.
After 11 hours of relentless searching, the team was coming up empty. It was time for a fresh shift. Coast Guard pilot Mike Valentine and C-130 commander Zach Hunter took the reins, ready for the next phase of the mission.
We got a call at about 3:30 in the morning, and we were told, hey, he's still out there.
I got my game face on. I was excited. I was ready to go.
The crew combined their visual observations with infrared cameras, maximizing their search capabilities.
Looking for somebody at night is very difficult. We had no idea where he might be. We didn't know if he had stayed with his kayak or tried to swim to shore.
Committed to the mission, the crew continued their search.
I looked up and I saw the Coast Guard plane flying around looking for me, hoping they would even just get a glimpse of me.
I looked outside the window. I saw a 20-foot kayak. And I said, I got him.
I was so excited. I cheered, I screamed, I waved my arms with excitement.
Elation, and then, is he okay?
Coming up, with the teenager's condition uncertain, the Coast Guard races to find the fastest, safest way to rescue him from the unforgiving currents.
We knew that we could drop a life raft, but we weren't sure that he would be able to climb into it.
I heard shouting. I was like, this is finally happening.
I broke down. It was unbelievable.
First responders do their very best to be prepared for any number of catastrophes, but even they will tell you that sometimes a situation comes along that is so unique, there's no way to train for it.
In those cases, they have to rely on some creative thinking and a whole lot of dedication to get the job done right.
17-year-old kayaker Kahiao Kawai had been lost at sea for nearly 12 hours. Coast Guard C-130 pilot Mike Valentine had spotted something through his infrared goggles.
I looked outside the window. I saw a 20-foot kayak. And I said, I got him. I was a little excited, but also unsure. I saw a kayak, but I didn't see him. Eventually, we were able to get the IR camera onto the kayak and see that the missing kayaker was holding on.
Uncertain of his condition, the crew weighed multiple options for a quick rescue.
When we found Kahiao, we knew that we could drop a life raft, but we weren't sure that he would be able to climb into it. Given his condition, it takes a lot of strength to get into one of those life rafts. So we looked in the surrounding area, and we saw a fishing vessel that was heading towards his direction. We contacted him on the radio and asked him what his intentions were. He told us he was looking for the missing kayak.
A Good Samaritan who had happened to be searching that entire evening.
To mark Kahiao's location, they opened the back of the giant aircraft and dropped a flare. The Good Samaritan, Nolan Kiahuluana, pointed his boat toward the beacon and texted Kahia's anxious mom.
When the boat came along and finally pulled up to me and I heard shouting, I was like, this is finally happening. He pulled me onto the boat. I just felt so relieved.
Meanwhile, for the air crew of the U.S. Coast Guard, it was mission accomplished.
It was incredibly rewarding, flying back knowing that Kahiao was on that vessel and he was on his way to safety. After we got off the plane, high fives and hugs.
Soon, word went out that Kahiao was found alive.
I broke down. It was unbelievable. It truly was a miracle because we actually found him and he was fine.
I got this text that said, they have him alive. I was standing in the middle of the room and I just started jumping up and down, screaming, they found him, they found him.
Then came the call.
They were crying. I could hear my family crying in the background.
Just tremendous relief. And he just sounded so calm, which is kahiao. And it just sounded kind of like any other day. Yeah, I'm good, Mom.
I could just feel the joy and the aloha coming through the phone when I heard their voices, and it brought me warmth and relief at that time.
Kahiao was treated for dehydration and hypothermia.
Seeing him in the hospital bed, covered up in all the blankets, and the doctors and nurses are doing their thing, and I could breathe. I could breathe again.
The resilient and lucky teenager made a full recovery. Coming up, a heartwarming reunion proves that the powerful spirit of Ohana truly does shine through.
Mike is actually the guy who found you. You probably saw us flying over you a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Your fortitude and your strength, your mental strength, and thinking about your family, that's what kept you alive. Just seeing you now, I'm starting to tear up.
After being lost at sea for nearly 12 hours, 17-year-old kayaker Kahiao Pavai was rescued by the crew of a U.S. Coast Guard C-130.
If we hadn't found Kahiao the moment that we did, I don't know if he would have survived. He's a very strong young man. For him to stay in the water for 12 hours, that's incredible.
Countless first responders and locals also contributed to this amazing rescue.
Doing search and rescue missions on the C-130, you don't often get to meet the family that you help. I'm extremely excited.
Now it was time for Kahiao and his family to meet these brave heroes for the first time.
Nice to meet you, man. Good to see you here. Got a light for you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone so much. I'm so happy for all of the hard work that you guys have done for me. And I didn't even realize just how many people were out there looking for me. I'm so thankful for everyone here.
Did everything right. Didn't give up hope, kept paddling, everything right.
Thank you guys so much. You guys made, without a doubt, the worst night of our lives into the best night of our lives. I don't know which one of you said, got him. Like, I broke down. Even now?
Mike is actually the guy who found you. You probably saw us flying over you a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So even though Mike saw the kayak, it took us about 5 more passes to find exactly where you are.
There's not enough words to thank you for finding our son and for the commitment, the sacrifice that you make every day in so many ways.
Just seeing you now, I'm starting to tear up, but that night was super lucky. And but also to your fortitude and your strength, your mental strength, and thinking about your family, that's what kept you alive.
Seeing them, all the people, was incredible, not only because we could finally just hug them and embrace them and thank them for what they did that night, but also an incredible reminder of the amazing community that we have.
I'm proud of myself for pushing through. I think it's just a part of who I am. I got myself back to safety and I made it. And I'm here now and I'm safe and I'm doing well.
I just can't thank everyone enough for just jumping in. People just jumped in to look for him. And I'm so grateful to be a recipient of their hard work.
The U.S. Coast Guard's District 14 has the largest area of responsibility, spanning over 12 million square miles, stretching from the Hawaiian Islands all the way to Guam, Singapore, and Japan.
Each and every day, these brave heroes save lives, respond to distress calls, and keep the land and ocean safe. And for that, we all owe them our greatest respect. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Hearts of Heroes.